Good evening, namaste, and good morning in Oxford. Abhishek for you. Uh, Welcome to this Masala Chai with Rajiv Khurana. And today I have a very, very special guest, Nixon Joseph. Don't go by his simple face. He's got a very powerful, youthful personality behind him. And I'll be talking about him. Why this concept of chai? Chai is nothing but an acronym for chatting, hacking, advising, and igniting. So we are not going to be looking purely in terms of serious discussion. The discussion has to be serious with a bit of fun part also, and that's the reason we like to add the masala market. Today, we are going to talk about the power of youth. And therefore, I felt I must invite somebody who is absolutely youthful to match my age group. I stopped counting my age after 25. That's a different thing that my son is today going to be 28 years old, but my wife is perpetually 18 years old. So with my mental age, I thought let me invite someone who's looking much more younger, who's working out very much younger, who has run how much? More than 43 marathons?
42 marathons.
42 marathons, full marathons minded. And here we have Nixon Joseph, who's the President and Chief Operating Officer at the SBI Foundation, a through and through banker who joined in 1985 as a probationary officer in State Bank of India. And he's a vastly skilled person with international experiences in investment, risk management, corporate finance, retail banking, credit analysis and syndication, etc. But then he has a passion. He's a passion for speaking. He has been a Toastmaster, even in Japan. And he's been a recipient of the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Professional Excellence and 42 marathons. Nixon, I'm truly envious of you. I wish I could actually get that inspiration and start running, but perhaps walking is okay for me at the moment. So, all right, friends. So, before we begin, two requests. Keep all your comments into the chat box and put your questions into Q&A. This is going to be a conversational mode where I may start asking some questions to Nixon, but at the same time, I may also be adding certain answers. And he can even ask me certain questions which I may answer. So this is going to be a two-way stuff. That's the reason only two speakers and no quota of 1 minute or 2 minutes. And this is not the Arnab Goswami show, Nixon. I'm not going to stop you. But I am expecting you to be quicker in your answer so that we can pick something and move faster. And in between, if my audience has some pointer, I will take up those points and share that with you. And you can also further expand on that or comment on that. The simple rule that we follow is that there are no rules. This is a concept, the power of youth. There are multiple dimensions. We may not be in a position to summarize exactly, but I'm sure towards the end, we may have a little bit of more clarity on that. And I'm a strong believer, the best of fusion comes out of confusion. So during the discussion, there could be some confusion here and there, but then we are definitely going to look at in terms of how do we channelize the power of youth by the youth themselves and those who think who are the shapers of youth and those who are still young like me, young at heart, and would remain young throughout. So Nixon, let me just talk about your experience with youth so far. I mean, you are the CEO of the SBI Foundation, and your organization does a lot of work with the youth. What has been your journey so far, very quickly?
See, till 4 years back, I was with banking only. And when I came to SBI Foundation, why I came was also because it was an opportunity to mentor youths. And youths who have left their lucrative careers or very stable career paths and joining the SBI Youth for India Fellowship, which is a rural fellowship where you have to spend in the remote villages for almost 13 months.
Okay.
So when I met these youths, I was really surprised because I was heard about only those youths who go for hefty salary, powerful positions, or glamorous jobs, etc. Whereas here is a group of 100 youths who have left their lucrative careers, who have given up all hierarchy, everything, and have joined this fellowship.
That's interesting.
And I used to ask them, like I was chairing the interview board, I used to ask them, why you want to join this rural fellowship? You have studied in Harvard University, you have studied in LSE, you have studied in Oxford, you have studied in IIMs. Why you should come for a rural fellowship? So I was very, very surprised and inspired, I should tell. When many of these youths told me, sir, we want to give back to society.
Excellent. And
We
that's the
want
true power
to-
of youth
yes.
we are talking about today.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Then they're telling, we want to share whatever we know
Sure.
with those who are marginalized or vulnerable. That was one answer I got. And another thing which they were telling is that we are fortunate enough that we could get admission to reputed colleges. We got educated so far. Whereas there are many youths who have been denied this privilege. So we think that we should give back. And this is, I was so touched by these replies. But over the period of 13 months, I used to closely follow with these youths. I have found that they're just doing it. They're just trying to bring some change amongst the communities with which they are engaged. And even after the 13 months fellowship is a remote location again and continue with the projects.
Excellent.
That many of them have started social enterprises, which is giving livelihood opportunities to 5 to 6 people.
Very good.
So, like when we tell that now we should not be job seekers, we should only provide jobs.
Yeah.
Some of the youths are really showing us role models. What an educated Indian youth should be. That they should
You
start.
said it very
their
well.
own
You know,
things.
these are the people who are the aimers and not blamers in society. They wish
I
to do
always
something.
say, yes.
So it is lighting a lamp is more important rather than blaming the darkness which these kids have actually proven.
And I find that they always want to be part of the solution.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So whatever knowledge they have, they put to creative use in these villages, and they are resolving many issues in these villages. That is inspiring for a person like me who has put in more than 35 years in the bank.
Excellent.
I am being taught, or I am learning a lot from these youths.
So you have around 100 of these SBI fellows who work all across.
Yes. Every year we take around 100 fellows, and I should
So
tell
for how
here
many
that
years has this program been going on?
this has been this fellowship started in 2011.
Okay.
And I should tell that almost 12,000 applications are the 100 fellowship. Just imagine 12,000 people from all over the world, youth from all over the world who are highly educated.
Sure.
So just think, we are able to select only 100. That means more than 11,900 youths are there who want to do something good for it, something good for the society.
I'm sure, you know, after this, we are going to have another discussion in terms of how Lung Care Foundation can help you in terms of channelizing the energy of the youth, in terms of at least taking care of the health of the people vis-a-vis air pollution, clean air, etc., which is so vital and definitely needed. Because let me just quickly share our experience so far. When we started Lung Care Foundation 5 years ago, and we had our Guinness World Record also, we felt that it is very important to channelize the energy of these youngsters. So we started with school kids, started with class 6, 7, 8, and now up to class 12. And we are surprised with the energy of these kids. We came up with a concept called BEST Clubs, Breathe Easy State of Clubs. Now we are operating in 6 cities, and 2 more cities are going to be added in September, October. And in each city, we train kids as well as the teachers from 25 schools who carry on their own projects. And you'll be amazed and surprised with the quantum of energy they show and the kind of results they have shown. And now we are going to be launching in October another kind of a concept which is unique. It's called a care card, CARE, where the students in college and school can start working in terms of social impact by first 4 stages. So they clear the first round, they are given a commitment card. Second is a recognition card, the action card. Third is a recognition card. And fourth is an exemplary leadership card, which very few people in the country would have. But then the enthusiasm in terms of the concept is also so pretty high. And we are also very hopeful that in times to come, the energy of these children is going to be phenomenal. And let me tell you, the secret behind this is the teachers, the schools who are working so well. And I'm sure now that we will graduate it to the colleges also, the response is going to be much higher. And you are now actually going beyond college, and that is where perhaps we could also assist you.
And here also I will share one thing, that this year COVID has sprung a surprise.
Oh yes,
So all these,
absolutely.
Yes, all these fellows, they were in the remote village locations doing some projects, and suddenly they found COVID has stopped them. It has disrupted their projects, but it is it's like giving so much satisfaction that none of them left their villages. They continued in the villages, and they were supporting COVID relief activities or tweaking their projects in such a way that they can bring some relief to the COVID affected. So these are all good messages and learnings which these present generation youth are giving us.
Absolutely. And fortunately, the technology has come to our aid. Had there been no Zoom, no other ways to connect, things would have been difficult. I mean, as of today, through the smartphones, people can connect from anywhere. And the last figure I was told was that there are 70 crore smartphone owners in India, 29 crores in the rural belt, and 42% of them are ladies owning a smartphone. So that's the power which youth suddenly discovers in the smartphone and then starts connecting.
True.
But coming back to that, Nixon, another issue which crops up is that 45 crore of the Indian population are in the age bracket of 15 to 29, which is typically youth, 34.33%. And therefore, we very proudly talk about demographic dividend. Now, sometimes I really wonder, is it a reality or is it a myth? I mean, if you were to actually apply the management tool of SWOT analysis in terms of what is the strength of our demographic dividend, what is our own weaknesses in terms of demography that we are talking about or the dividend we are talking about, what kind of opportunities are we having for these kids, and what could be the threats? Because, and I must caution everyone here, please, there are no black or white answers here. Somebody rightly said, whatever you talk about India is true and the opposite is also true. But then the thing is, here with a middle class of somewhere around 35 crores, demographic dividends, people having aspirations, and more in terms of seeking jobs rather than becoming entrepreneurs. What is your take on it as a banker and as a mentor for these youth? It's a tough situation because even in my personal capacity, I would have addressed over 500,000 school and college kids in over 50 cities of India, and that too in English and Hindi mix, so that I could be closer to them. And there I personally feel that perhaps there is a misbalance in terms of the aspirations and the preparation part.
See, we have a significant young population that is accepted, but then to reap the demographic dividend, I think lots need to be done. We are like, when we tell a lot of youths are there, of course, many of them are having degree certificates, but whether this education which we have provided, whether help them create some jobs or get some jobs, or whether they are employable, that is what is of great concern. I always think about this thing. Opportunities, whether are employable. That is one thing. So if we have to reap this dividend, we should.
Sorry, your voice is breaking, Nixon. Nixon, there is a disconnect. Maybe you could switch off your video and try for some time. Yeah, Nixon, can you hear me? If you could switch off your video and try. Sorry for this interruption, friends. Technical hitch from Bombay. But let me just connect to Nixon again and try to bring him in, please. In the meantime, if you have, yeah, he's trying to join in.
Yes.
Yeah, Nixon, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's some connectivity issue here. Please go ahead.
So what I feel is like we should prepare the youth for the requirements of the industry or whatever openings are available, be it in the service sector and all. That is something which we have to do if we have to reap the demographic dividend. And as I already told, instead of being job seekers, we should be job providers. And how that can happen is from the education system onwards, from lower ages onwards, lower classes onwards, we should create an interest in enterprises, entrepreneurship, which is not happening now. We are preparing our children to be doctors, engineers, or civil servants and all.
Absolutely, only three professions.
And no, like I think very few parents will encourage a child if the child is telling, I want to be an entrepreneur. So, and also the ecosystem should be there, which will develop entrepreneurship. That lot of government, like stakeholders, have to think about it, how such an ecosystem can be developed. So youths are, I'm telling you, our youth, a lot of potential. How to use this potential? There has to be a long-term plan for it. Otherwise, we will be, yes.
You've hit the nail very well, Nixon. Compliments to you. Because when we, I mean, in my talk all across on careers, I have also discovered that kids would like to become doctor, engineer, and civil servant, and nothing beyond that. So generally, I ask them, I said, look, why is it that your parents force you? I go to various schools and colleges where I get invited as a chief guest to speak on parenting, etc. So I say, hey, the difference is you try to become a sponsor of education rather than a partner of education. And then I asked the kids, I said, go and ask your parents whether the parents would love to see you only as a doctor, engineer or civil servant, या फिर हिंदी में सफल, सुखी, संतुष्ट. सफल बनना चाहते हैं, सुखी बनना चाहते हैं, संतुष्ट बनना चाहते हैं. Then it could be in any area. Why only doctor, engineer, civil servant? There could be a lot of disgruntled doctors or engineers. And there could be very happy photographers or painters. So सफल, सुखी, संतुष्ट बनना है तो फिर मिलकर सोचा जाए ना कि पर्सनालिटी के हिसाब से क्या चीज ली जाए. But then, Nixon, you talk about education part, and I always believe education begins when qualification ends. The trouble is, once the qualification finishes, we stop educating ourselves. But this is again so far as the literate, learned people are concerned. But a majority of the Indian youth is not that. Unfortunately, even in terms of literacy part, 85% of our university graduation is BA pass, BSc journal, and BCom pass. And we finish 3 years, and then suddenly we come to the job market as graduates, and then seniors like you say, hey, there is unemployability, because even engineers, 22% are employable, which the studies are talking about. So let us focus on this educational part, and then we move to also those guys who are deprived of good education, but they are still the youth and they have the power. And sometimes if the energy is not channelized properly, it could be misused also, which generally gets done. So how do we ensure that the employability part, because everyone cannot be an entrepreneur, as we say, unless and until we look at only those micro enterprises for which banks like yours have to also be very large-hearted and liberal in terms of giving away those loans so that they can create a chai ki dukaan or a photocopying machine or tela. What are your comments?
See, you were telling about BA, BCom, like lot of BA, BCom youths are there. But I will also add that so many engineers are also there now.
Yeah.
In fact, there are a lot of engineering colleges all over India bringing out engineering graduates. And it's also, we have to accept that employability is not there even in the case of engineering graduates.
That's the reason 3,000 of them closed down.
This is because there is no connect between industry and academy. One. Second thing is, as I told you, this has to be collective or coordinated effort in the sense that, like from the banking side, finance side, I am telling youths are not employable. But then how much have I tried to convey to the academics that these are the requirements, our requirements? We have not gone in that direction.
Sure.
In the same way, academics, how many of them ask the industry what are the requirements? See, most of the academics approach the industry at the time of placement. We have this many graduates, we have educated them, so let us see the placement. But then on both sides, that's why I told you, there has to be a coordinated effort from all the stakeholders on how we can reap demographic dividend. And it has to start now because otherwise time passes very fast.
Absolutely.
And we will find that we were only mentioning in discussions that India is very lucky we are going to have demographic dividend.
Sure. What you said is very rightly. किसी शायर ने एक बात कही थी और मैंने उस बात को थोड़ा सा बदल डाला. शेर ओरिजिनल था कि दोनों तरफ है आग बराबर लगी हुई, और मेरा शेर है कि दोनों तरफ है आग बराबर बुझी हुई, कुछ वो बेखबर हैं, कुछ हमको नहीं खबर. इंडस्ट्री परवाह नहीं करेगी, कॉलेज परवाह नहीं करता, उसको फीस मिल गई है. स्टूडेंट्स को जॉब के लिए प्लेसमेंट से 2 हफ्ता पहले इनपुट्स चाहिए, हाउ टू क्रैक द इंटरव्यू. But for 3 years or 4 years, he would also keep ignoring it. But I would not even put that as a responsibility of the student alone, because then the college education and the people behind also work. Now, let me also, very interesting things which are happening on the chat box, and I'll keep picking up from there. Sunil Lohar has said, employability of educated youth is a basic problem we have in India. Our education needs revolutionary change, which is a need of the time. Parents are still not come from the conventional thinking of making their children doctors and engineers, or come out of. Sure. So now the question is, when people say revolutionary, and now we have a new educational policy also. What revolution are we talking in terms of our education? Unless and until we start with an revolutionary mindset, can we think from an unconventional angle? So what if my child becomes, I mean today, a halwai, but then halwai, a trained guy, would actually be running a fabulous catering business and would be making much more money. Or he could be a food technologist. So what kind of a revolution should we talk about when we talk about bringing forth the power of the youth? Because India has seen the power of the youth purely from a political revolution's point of view. But the economic, the social revolution point of view, what is that which we can do even in our education system? What are your thoughts on this? And let me invite the audience also to start typing in so that I can also pick up their answers from the chat.
Yeah, I find that new education policy is something new, something very reformative. I agree with that. And it provides opportunities for vocational opportunities, or choosing whatever subjects you want, options and all are given. But when are we going to implement it?
Oh yes, very vital point. Very vital point.
If we are going to take so many years to implement it, the dividend is lost.
Nixon, you are the sufferer and I was the gainer. I'm sure you would have qualified your 12 plus 2, which year would have been?
That was in 78.
78. And I passed out in 1977, the last 11th class. And after that, the government decided that we are going to have class 12. Now, when you introduce the class 12, 1 year was increased with the logic that we are going to have vocationalization of education. 43 years have passed and still there is no vocationalization. 2 generations going about, and they've forgotten also that there was a concept called 11th. 1 year has been added. Did that make people less intelligent or more intelligent? No. So your point, in case we are going to take 4 decades to implement something and we are still not ready, then what kind of a revolution are we talking about? We are still at a stage of evolution and we are not even conceptualizing it properly.
The speed is the essence here. Like, we have a good policy, but then we should implement it immediately. If
Sure.
we are going to take time, it loses its effect.
I mean, the audience is talking about revolution in the education approach. So let's ask whether they are going to accept it. Give me your answer in yes or no, audience. Whether you're going to accept it. And let me talk about something which is revolutionary, which is knocking on the door to start. And that is, after 12th, there are no degrees. You have short certification courses. Unless and until you want to become super specialist, or you want to do PhDs, or you want to become doctors because that's a discipline, or lawyer or a chartered accountant where you get into a track. Otherwise, you have a 3-month, 6-month certificate programs. Whenever you want to change your career, you do another certification and you move ahead. And throughout your life, as the things keep changing, you keep doing your certifications and keep progressing in your career. That could be revolutionary. But
Yes.
Are we going to accept the situation that, okay, my son is going to be 12th pass with just a certificate because he does not even have the basic graduation attached to it? Let's hear. Are we ready for that kind of a situation? Would the government offer, or the public sector or the private sector offer jobs to such people? Because this is going to be revolutionary. What's your opinion? I mean, I would love to have that.
No, that idea is good. Only thing is,
some of the audience is not
should,
liking the idea, but
the-
let's hear some more answers, please. Yeah, Nixon, please.
like everyone should change the thought process. See, having degree is like everyone is imperative, or parents compel that because they think this is the passport for a job.
Sure.
But if we are able to provide job opportunities for 10th standard pass or 10+2 or those having vocational qualifications, then the entire thought process would change. Now we have the peculiar situation where degree is the entry for most of the jobs. So this has to change from the industry side and all stakeholder side. This has to change. And we have found that degree is not guaranteeing jobs. So many unemployed people with jobs. So this will sink into people's mind. And also, when the education policy changes, or when we are telling after 12 there is an option either to go for degree or go for vocational and all these also should be linked to the industries requirements of services sector, etc. Otherwise, this will again create a bottleneck. What we should have is that what are the requirements of the industry, what are the requirements in the service sector, what are the opportunities available, can we link it to the educational system. Then there will be an resolution of all these concerns, and also demographic dividend can be reaped. So it has to start with education.
Yeah.
And it has to go very fast. Not like it takes decades to implement the new education policy.
Exactly.
Then we may have to give up this thought of demographic dividend.
So let's grow beyond the education part, but let me just quickly read out some of the comments which have come, which are pretty interesting. Mr. Sunil Lohar has said, in country like Finland, vocational training are introduced from primary level in schools. That's very well said. We need to do that. But majority of the people feel that we need to have formal education. Minakshi Dua is talking about that, okay, this idea may not be acceptable at present, but it'll evolve. even the new education policy is moving in that direction. Well, this is what we have been thinking, Meenakshi, that it has been moving in a very snail pace. And whether it is moving or it is static, we really do not know. But Ms. Shanmugam has said, I do not vote for it. It is after the +2 that there is some maturity and some knowledge gained on their own. Till then, it is notes and pass, pass, pass. And Mr. Shailendra Kumar Sharma has made a very interesting comment. I'm just reading out quickly. Still, parents are very conservative. They will not take risks just to go for certification only. Really, brilliant students should be allowed to go for higher education. Absolutely right. We are not saying that the brilliant student should not be allowed. But then somebody who's been having just 50% marks and the parents still force him to go through, prepare for IIT. That is criminal for the child. And let me tell you, in smaller cities where I have spoken, I have come across hundreds of such people where I feel parents need more counseling rather than the children, because let them choose something which is more appropriate to their temperament and to their aptitude.
In this connection, I will tell you, like I have been interviewing 700 youths during the last 1 month.
Wow.
For this SBI Youth for India fellowship.
Sure.
And then I used to ask, why you are an engineering graduate, you are a BTech. Why you want to come to the development sector? Surprised, almost 30-40% of them told that we took engineering because our parents wanted it.
Yeah.
Now we have become mature. Now we want to know that engineering is not our area. We like development sector. So that is something, how many years they have lost. Not enjoying their studies also. Because I always say,
that's quite unfortunate.
Whatever we do, we should be able to enjoy.
Sure. Nixon, there is a personal question which has come in between, which I want you to definitely respond. This is in terms of the selection of the SBI Youth Foundation. Shruti Singh has joined in, and she is a special child. She says, good evening. I'm Shruti Lata Singh from Sense India, and she is a person who's going through deaf blindedness. And her question is that can you also include person with disability, especially those with deaf blindedness, in the program you are doing in rural area? This is a very interesting question, and whether SBI has a policy to take people with limitations in terms of hearing impairment, seeing impairment, and speaking impairment.
SBI Foundation vision is for an inclusive society. Therefore, we open our fellowships also to all sectors.
Wonderful.
To all people.
Sure.
And we also discussed with our NGO partners also about accepting people with disabilities.
Sure.
And I am proud to tell that be it in the interactions with us or in the selection process also,
sure,
we always focus on inclusivity.
Excellent. So would you just quickly mention your website ID so that she can access to that, and then go ahead and we'll continue with our further discussion.
Yes. Yeah. SBI Youth for India .org.
SBIYouthForIndia.org. Shruti, I hope that will answer your query. Thank you for asking this question, very relevant. And people who are progressive thinkers like you are definitely needed in the society to play a very powerful role for the youth. Well, moving ahead further. Situation is, as Mr. Murugesh says, millions of talents are wasted and settled for clerical jobs. You can find so many MBBS and engineering graduates doing clerical jobs, unfortunately. Again, it comes down to entrepreneurship. And we are talking in terms of microfinancing opportunities for them, because unfortunately, our entire education system, and let me just give you some figures that will astound you. And these figures are coming from the erstwhile Planning Commission. 92% of the people are working in the unorganized sector in India. Only 8.34% are in the organized sector. That includes the government, that includes the public sector, that includes the private sector. For example, the private sector, large scale private sector employment is 2.57%. And our entire education system is focused on creating and giving jobs to that 8% opportunities. Nobody is preparing for employment or careers in small and medium enterprises, development sectors, because everybody dreams that one day when I graduate, somebody will come in his car to conduct an interview and I'll be inducted into a public sector or a large MNC, because even larger Indian organizations are not preferred. Your comments about this mindset, and how do we change this mindset that people start thinking in terms of, okay, if I cannot become an entrepreneur, then at least let me be willing to work in a smaller organization, and that could be a good nursing ground for me to create all kind of capabilities to become an entrepreneur 4 or 5 years later. Nixon, your comments, please.
See, I feel that our views regarding jobs, like a preference for public sector, all these have come because of legacy. We were ruled by the British, and then our prestige was always associated with government jobs. And though after so many years of decades of independence, we are yet to come out of that feeling that government job is the best. Because those days, for so many, I think, generations, we had a lot of prestige with government jobs, the power the persons enjoyed, the amount of money they could make, the position they enjoyed in society. These were concepts with us for so many years. And then it will take now so many years for it to change. And I think it is changing, because I find many youths, there are many youths who don't go for public sector or anything. And there is a good portion of percentage of youths who to go for other than government jobs. I am seeing it also. I find it's happening, but then change is very gradual and slow.
Well, you're right, Nixon. 40 years back, and rather 35 years back, I got into consulting profession at the age of 24 and a half years old. When I was 22, I had a public sector job. I could have been the director or MD of that public sector large organization at this stage. And I said, nothing doing, I'm not going in for it. I'll follow my heart. I agree that a lot of these youngsters these days like to follow their heart. That's the reason they are coming to you.
Yes, that is what, yes.
But the question is, the population of 45 crores, this is not even a tip of the iceberg. And the issue is, for a larger scale, how do we channelize their energies? And therefore, I come up with another question which is very vital. What could be, and there are a lot of teachers sitting and listening to us, principals sitting and listening to us, educationists sitting and listening to us. What could be the role of parents, educationists, including teachers, and also these days, the clan of life coaches who are also increasing by numbers? That, okay, we facilitate children to take a more informed decision and prepare themselves, and larger numbers, and not just talking about those few numbers who can maybe pick and choose their careers, go overseas to studies, etc. Because then we have a very narrow perspective of this youth. We are talking about India as a whole, 15 to 29 years of age group, 45 crores as a population. What could be done?
It's a
very tough question. And this is not a question that I'm asking. Even when I start asking this question to myself, I really get shivers. Okay, what do we do?
And unless our economy grows tremendously, we won't be able to address the aspirations of all the youth. So that is one thing. Unless economy grows, we won't be able to find opportunities in various sectors. So first thing could be the growth of the economy. And if it slackens, it is a dangerous signal for our youth. So what we tell about molding, like changing the education system, or providing vocational training, all fine. But at the end of it, unless the economy grows, opportunities won't be there. So this is all like a big, tough question which you have asked. we can prepare for, like, we can get the youth prepared, change everything, but not ultimately. Even if they start micro enterprises or any MSMEs, there has to be demand. All these are connected issues, linked issues. So, I
generally,
feel,
yeah, sorry.
no, it's
Yeah,
okay.
carry on, please.
So, the growth of the economy is something we have to
Sure.
focus. And how
know,
it can be done, it will depend on government policies, government thoughts. Yes, Rajiv.
Okay, I'll like to answer this, and I'll take 1 or 2 minutes to respond to this because, and I'll go with my favorite story, which I generally narrate to all the youngsters. I know we have a belief that I generally say that, okay, this world then can be summarized in a story of 3 apples, only 3 apples. The first apple which Adam and Eve tasted. The third apple is Apple iPhone. Symbol of luxury, desire, technology. More money you have, the more you want to buy it, not just to use it, but also to show that you have the affordability to buy an Apple iPhone. Well, my question to youngsters is always, when Adam and Eve tasted the apple and they realized that they had to create the world, which company offered them a job? Where did the first appointment letter come from? Tell me, anyone? Even in your chat box. There was none. So this proves the point. Mankind is a born entrepreneur. Born entrepreneur. We knew how to survive. That's the DNA. And then, for centuries, they went on like that and like that unless one powerful person stood up and said, Chalo, आओ खेले राजा मंत्री चोर सिपाही मैं राजा तुम प्रजा, and we said very good. So now give us a job. And we became the employee of the Raja. And Raja became later on the government, so we became a government employee. And those who were not privileged were serving these people. And then later on in the later 17th century, 18th century, great industrial revolutions, the power, the steam, power, industrialization, what happened? Larger organizations came in and we got into a job. And since then, our education system is only preparing people for the jobs.
Yes.
To the extent that today, the mother of the boy is more worried कि बेटा पढ़ ले, अगर पढ़ेगा नहीं तो नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी तो छोकरी नहीं मिलेगी, because everything is associated with that kind of a job. Whereas when we talk about the real spirit of mankind, we are born entrepreneurs. Now the question is, if economic progress is vital, very good, but somewhere we have forgotten the inherent entrepreneurship which God has planted in us. Now you may be wondering, I spoke about 3 apples and I only counted 2. Where is the second apple? So that's everybody's guess. Which was the second apple? That was Newton's apple, which fell on his head and he started dancing gravity, gravity, gravity. Apples used to fall on somebody else's head earlier also. Nobody said gravity. Why did Newton say it? Because he had a question, he had curiosity, he was searching for an answer and he found the answer. And that falling of the apple triggered the button, triggered the thought, and therefore the second quality which mankind is, implanted is our curiosity, our creativity. So now the question is, if the economic scenario is not going good, the government will not be in a position to offer so many jobs. What do we need to do, especially in the 15 to 29 years of bracket? If you are not playing the test match, you still have to play cricket to be in practice. And therefore, to imbibe our skills, we need to combine that entrepreneurial spirit of ours and our curiosity and our innovativeness and creativity together in our schools with the help of our parents, so that we are remaining into the practice of doing certain things positive. So if the youth, in terms of its power, only has to look at pure economic reasons, fine, good enough. But in terms of a social change also, a youth can do fantastic amount of job, which your SBI fellows are doing. My kids at Best Club are doing. And I'm sure there are hundreds of many such organizations which are propelling the energy of the youth in terms of bringing about positive changes. What are your comments on this?
No, as you told, entrepreneurship, starting micro enterprises, all these are solutions for the unemployment situation which we are facing. But then how to encourage this entrepreneurial spirit? How to turn the youth towards enterprises? All these are challenges before us. And I feel that since we have been brought up in a thought process of going for jobs only after education, the change will take time for this change to happen. Many youths are coming up with startups. Many youths have started their own enterprises. This will catch up, but it will take time.
Our perspective of startups, Nixon, has been that anything which is relating to IT is a startup. But I'm sorry, anyone who sets up a small shop in tier 3, tier 4 city is also a startup.
For a startup,
The startups have been happening. And
Yes.
the culture of startups have to be strengthened further with, of course, banks like yours leading from the front. Now, another question Mr. Sunil Lohar has actually, sorry, Mr. Sunil Lohar has pointed out is most of the industry is now adopting artificial intelligence and automation in India, which will again add on to unemployment issue. It's high time we work on channelizing energy of youth by creating new sources of employment and entrepreneurship. Otherwise, our strength and will become our biggest weakness and lead to serious social issues too. Well, world over, Mr. Sunil, the thought is very clear. AI is not going to take away your jobs. AI is only going to help in terms of removing the repetitiveness of a job. There will be more jobs that will get created. And therefore, that doesn't worry me much. What worries me is if we are not ready to adapt to that. And if we become ignorant or we resist the implementation on that, then it is going to create more problems. And then we look at solutions from the government. Well, the government will take its own sweet time in terms of bringing about changes. But the question is also, what are we going to be doing ourselves? And what our teachers, our gurus are also going to be doing ourselves. Let me respond further on this. You know, a scenario from Mahabharata. We have 4 characters: Arjun, Karn, Eklavya, and Abhimanyu. Arjun, the privileged one, had Guru Dronacharya. Along with others, Arjun had an inherent talent. Dronacharya took him as his favorite student, trained him well, and ensured that he gets best of everything. Karna was not the privileged one. He had to lie his way through because he had the talent. Eklavya had a desire and he was denied that kind of education, but he still worked it out. And today you don't need, and I always say today, this is the era of Eklavya, because even if Dronacharya is not there, Guru Google is there. And if you wish to learn, you can learn. And then we had Abhimanyu, who was born talented. But the trouble with Abhimanyu was also that though he was born talented, he did not upgrade his knowledge. And therefore, he had to pay through his life. Now, there could be various justification to that, but I'm looking at those 4 characters from modern day perspective. Now, the question is, what do we need to do to make our youth knowledge hungry and also power hungry? Power to bring about changes. What will propel them? I'll give you one example here and then I'll
Knowledge
come to you, Nixon.
hungry.
Yeah, Nixon, sorry. Yeah, Nixon, please. You were saying something, Nixon? Yeah.
Knowledge, regarding how to make our youth knowledge hungry. See, unless you update yourself, unless you go for continuous learning, you are almost dead. And that is going to be the situation. Like with AI and all coming into play, it's not that we are losing jobs. We are not getting prepared for the jobs brought out by introduction of AI and all.
Sure.
That only means that we have to update ourselves. We should think that learning is a continuous process, which many people don't do. Once you get a job, people think that is the end of it. And therefore, as things change, and now change is very rapid, you find that you are not able to adjust to the new situation. But here also I find many of the youths are learning and updating themselves. So it's a very welcome sign.
I think what is also important is that we need to create a differentiation between teaching and learning. So far, our youth has gone through an education system where teaching has been predominant. Somebody catches hold of you, expects you to cram up for certain things, pass an exam, and then you go ahead. Whereas learning is a self-propelled activity. And with, I think, today's youth is pretty eager to learn because the tools are available, which were perhaps not there when we were young. When we were in our school, there was nothing like a computer in front of us. But our youth can actually learn a lot. But something which is also very critical here is when we talk about them, we tell them. We don't think with them. I was speaking at one of the youth conferences in Malaysia. And I said, one day, one youngster is going to stand up and ask us the question that sitting there on the top, how can you decide for us? Get down to our life, understand and feel for us, talk with us, what are our aspirations, what are our constraints, and then develop something for us. What is your opinion on this, Nixon?
I think I missed you
Doesn't
because
matter.
of this internet connectivity.
Oh, no problems at all. My question was that generally elders, try to prescribe to the youngsters that this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. But we don't even partner with these youngsters in terms of what could be done.
So I think, yes, this has been, I think, also a problem with the education system, where we are teaching whatever is available in the books, and also the concept that since we are teachers, we will instruct and you listen to it. Whereas it has to be participative, it has to be responsive, and that format has to change. Otherwise, the innovation which we are speaking about, the entrepreneurial ability of youth, all these will not emerge if we are thinking from an instructor point of view. In fact, we have to allow the students to experiment. That possibility is not there here now.
Another question that pops up my mind is, how about learning from the youth? What do people like us should learn from the youth? We have a technical term called reverse mentoring, but that's a little heavy sounding stuff. But the question is, what is that which we can learn except for, the social media, which the youth very willingly teaches us at homes? What else can we learn from the youth?
As I told earlier, I find there are a lot to learn from the youth. One thing is their feeling of giving back to society is something we elders can learn from them. They have strong convictions regarding actions to be taken against climate change. They are having strong convictions about it, very strong beliefs regarding their protecting the environment, taking care of animals. And all these views, which on all these issues, the youth are having a very strong view. They have strong beliefs on it. They want change to happen in these ways. And they are, I think many of them are following also ways in their lives, adapted many of the sustainable development goals into their lives. I met many
Absolutely.
youths. So these are things which we can learn from youths. And also the risk-taking ability. I joined SBI in 1985 and have been continuing with the bank. Whereas I have found present-day youths, they shift every 3 years when they find that a situation is not good or they are not happy with it, they're able to do it. So all these things, there are a lot to learn from the youth. In fact, when this Teachers' Day, I was thinking, I was telling, I should have wished all my SBI Youth for India fellows a happy Teachers' Day. Because from each of them, I am learning a lot.
That's your humility, Nixon. That's wonderfully well put. Excellent for that. Now, let me put it in a little different perspective. Youthfulness. Now, you are an example of youthfulness. 42 marathons. And at an age where you're 30 or what? Whatever be the age. What is your message to the young and not so young in terms of retaining, sustaining that youthfulness and the energy and the vigor? What propels you?
See, one thing which everyone should do is do things differently.
Yes.
Till the age of 45, I was not into any physical activities or fitness exercise and all. At the age of 45, I thought that I should be different from others. So I always believe that if you do things differently, you inspire others. So I was thinking of how to be different from all the 270,000 officials of SBI. Then it came to my mind that in public sector banks, very few people do long distance running or even running at all.
Okay.
So I thought, why not enter into long distance running?
And that's truly very inspiring, Nixon. Truly very inspiring.
Started a Mumbai marathon and started this marathon running without knowing much about marathon running.
Sure.
In fact, the first marathon running took 7 hours, 30 minutes for me to complete.
Okay.
But though it took long time, what I liked was that it gave me the message that if you are determined, you can achieve anything.
Brilliant. So started at the age of 45, 42 marathons, and the number is counted further, sufficient for all of us to get lots and lots of inspiration. I have a question which has come from Ms. Elizabeth Shira, which I'll take up, and then we'll have to close it fast because I got just 1 minute left. And she's talking about work-life balancing. How do you take care of that part? You know, work. You are a busy big boss, and then you are doing the running part. How do you manage the two things together?
See, I do a lot of things, not only running, I do online learning, then I take part in webinars, almost one every all. I feel that what are your priorities? How you prioritize things in your life?
Excellent.
That brings work-life balance.
So that gives the answer that you set your priorities right, because there's an old saying that if you want something done, give it to a busy person and he will find time to do it. Wonderful, Nixon. Thank you so much for this wonderful time that you have devoted in this Masala Chai with Rajiv Khurana. Just to sum up, in terms of just 5 pointers when we're talking about enhancing the power of youth, I will talk more in the form of an acronym that I created for youth itself. We need to focus on 5 things. Why? Yes to positivity. Thinking negativity will not give us results. Second, Nixon, you said it very well. Open opportunities. And opportunities need not be just provided by the government, but we will have to also find opportunities because we are born entrepreneurs. Third, we need to understand them. Just should not impose things on them, but just be part of the partner with them. Safal, Sukhi, Santusht banana hai, na ki doctor, engineer, chartered accountant banana hai. And then we need to invest heavily into T, talent sharpening of the youth, which is where the academia and everyone senior gets involved. And finally, H, we need to harvest new thinking collectively along with them And if we are in a position to do that, we will be in a position to empower the youth and use the power of the youth. With this, it is exactly 7:30. Thank you very much for joining Masala Chai with Rajiv Khurana. This video shall be uploaded on my Facebook page and the link shall be available. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad. God bless you all and remain
Thank you,
youthful.
everyone. Thank you.
Get inspired from Nixon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.